Nope. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the final round of the PRL LMP2 Le Mans season for Series 4 on a Tuesday night. And we are in Germany. We're at Nürburgring for today's race using the Grand Prix layout, but without the chicane. So these cars are going to keep up their speed just a little bit more than you would expect. There's a championship fight to be decided. It's edged out in favor of meat, but it is not an unbreakable lead. You're going to see all of the action live tonight, as always, right here on the Global SimRacing Channel. My name is Ryan Jones. Alongside me is Samuel Ryman, and behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, using the cameras provided by Dougie Beard. And when we dive down and take a closer look at this place with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to the Nürburgring. Often overshadowed by its older, bigger brother, the Nordschleife, the Grand Prix course has actually accrued quite a bit of history itself. This modern circuit was built in the early 80s as a replacement for the lesser-known Southern Loop. And while it was updated and extended in 2002, it stayed roughly 3 miles in length throughout its history. However, the addition of the Mercedes Arena brought about a total of 6 different layouts to choose from, with the longest including 16 turns. Though not as fearsome as the ring, it's technically challenging and carries its own fair share of elevation change. Plus, the types of corners come in a wide variety, ranging from the heavy braking into the sharp hairpin of the first turn, to the swift Schumacher S, which is still not quite flat out in a lot of modern cars. Passing can sometimes come at a premium, and drivers are often forced to get creative if they find themselves stuck behind a competitor. But the difficulty that elicits mistakes means that patience can pay off with those who stay diligent. While Formula One raced here on and off for a few decades, it now mainly hosts GT and touring car racing, along with some lower-tier open-wheel series. In the end, race fans certainly shouldn't overlook the importance of this German circuit. While it may not carry the fame of its counterpart, it holds up well and helps keep this worldwide phenomenon relevant to modern racing.
Sheer driving, it says over on that bridge, and that is pretty much what sim racing is all about, getting out there and doing a bit of driving without the ridiculous cost of the real world, for the most part. But today, Sam, what more do you want to tell us about this racetrack?
Well, as you mentioned, Ryan, we're pretty much on the Grand Prix course here, but without the chicane. So it's a bit of a third gear. I mean, we still have a chicane there, but it's like a bit more of a third gear sweeper, left and the right. Sets you up nicely for the final turn. Of course, the front straight is your best passing opportunity on this track. Not the only passing opportunity, though. There's places around here for good battles, especially during that stadium complex at the start of a lap. So we should be in for an interesting 1 hour of racing here today, Ryan.
We certainly will be. And as always, today's race is brought to you by SimSA. Simulation MotorSports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing the simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net. Today's broadcast also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. The ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebutkicker.com. So let's look at the championship. I mentioned coming in, it's in favor of Rodrigo Meets. It's 22 points in hand over Paulo Munoz, but it's really tight for second. Mauricio Cuero is only 2 points away from Munoz. Carl Modov's only 7 points away, and David Holland is only 14 points away. So there's a massive fight going on for second in the points, and if something happens to Meets, there's a massive fight for the championship win as well. And what about the team standing, Sam?
Yeah, it's a little bit more broken up here. You can see Punto CL Racing have had a good season, with the red team sitting in first position and their blue team down there in third position. But Delta Sport U4K sitting as the meat in that Punto CL Racing sandwich, only 41 points back of a points lead. It might be a little insurmountable for them today, but we shall see. Anything can happen in racing. Pure Sim eSports and TQ Engineering Green also making their way onto the leaderboard.
In terms of race details, it is round 10. All the drivers should be up to date with this by now. A 15-minute qualifying session to set the field, a 60-minute race, open setups, a pit stop required at some point or another, a drive-through at 13 incidents, disqualification at 18, a very crucial bonus point for getting the pole, getting the fastest lap, or finishing with 3 incidents or less. So let's then look at qualifying at the moment. We're 5 minutes in, there's 9 times on the board, and it's Carl Modoff that leads the way.
Yes, but we have yet to see a lap time turned by our championship leaders, Munoz and Mies, although Mies just actually set a lap. He went second, he went quickest, I think, but then Quero bumped him down, so Mies is currently second fastest. I'm watching Munoz right now. There we see Quero on screen, as now we see other cars coming across the line on screen. Paulo Munoz is about to go through the final turn to complete, hopefully, his first timed lap if he's kept it on the board. Let's see what he can do as he comes across the line. Can he get up onto the front row of the grid? No, he can't. Only 4th fastest so far. But it's a 15-minute long qualifying session, and these drivers have an unlimited amount of laps that they can run. It's just the clock that's stopping them that will put an end to all of their runs.
Sean Romig then will cross the line, and he does not register a lap time, unfortunately. Looks like we're going to have a 19-car field to finish off our season, which should give us plenty good racing on this track. Certainly a place where you can overtake, as Byron Daly finishes off his lap. Mauricio Quero, fastest at the moment. Certainly wants to stay there, and if he does, he can have second in the championship. David Holland needs a very good result if he wants to pick off any late spots on that points table, as he comes through a very fast kink at the bottom of the track and now up the hill into where there is kind of, but not really, a chicane. It's a very fast one at that. And then the final sweeper that brings you back onto the main straight. Try not to let it run too far out because there is an off track to be had out there, and he crosses the line, does a 140.1 and puts himself up into 5th.
Yeah, I said that chicane was a 3rd gear sweeper. David Holland did it in 4th gear there, but then again, he's carrying qualifying fuel right now, so maybe it's 3rd gear once he puts some tyres, once he puts some fuel in that car. So here we see Mies is on track. He is on an outlap, I can tell you right now. He spun on his last qualifying attempt, so it'll be a while until we see if Mies can improve on his qualifying time and take the top position away from Quero. That lap time that Quero is currently sitting on, the 139.717, that is the fastest time we have seen in this iRacing session. It's faster than any of laps we saw turned in practice.
You've actually seen a few times this season the practice times end up being quicker purely because of the amount of time they put up their sleeve, but it certainly seems that Mauricio Quero has found plenty to be proud about in this qualifying session, as Munoz was little ways off the pace on his latest effort there.
And Quero was taking it wide there. Obviously, that wasn't the ideal line, so I think he was just getting him. He debolted down. He's been off track at some point during that lap, so he's setting himself up to go quicker here. So here's David Holland. Oh, I think that will count as a 1x, and that definitely will count as a 1x.
So he's going to have to try again. Carl Modoff, his teammate, out of the last corner. If he can find 0.2 of a second, he'll go, well, only second actually. He's just over 0.2 of a second away. He finds a lot more than that, and he goes to the top with a margin of a 1/10.5 over Mauricio Quero. Good lap there from Modoff. Horatio Calquin behind him stays 8th after failing to register a lap time, and Ignacio Rodriguez Fredes puts himself nowhere. No lap time registered for him either.
Yeah, there were a lot of cars crossing the line at the same time there. I can't imagine that's ideal around this course. You don't really have a long enough straight for the slipstream to benefit you. Romig really letting the rear end of his car slide out the final turn, improves by a few hundredths. Uribe across the line doesn't improve. It must be said that we were seeing all those quick lap times being set. There has been a lot of clouds across over the circuit. It's been very overcast here during this qualifying session. And the track temperature, as you can see, only 19 degrees Celsius, which is about as low as it goes on iRacing. But the sun has came out a little bit, so we'll see if that raises the temperature, see if that affects the lap times that we're going to see. As Quero still sitting in second for now, that was off of his top pace. Likewise for Munoz, he might get a little bit of that slipstream from Quero on his next lap, but again, I don't know how much that's really going to help him.
David Holland in 6th, going through the chicane, and then a refreshing trip through Coca-Cola curve and on the main straight. That looks like it's a little way off the pace for him. In fact, his previous lap was his fastest, and true to form, can't really do 2 fastest laps in a row. Frides still hunting for an improvement over an early lap in the session that put him up to 7th where he is now. He doesn't find it there. He's got it ways off on that lap. Lowendijk, it's a long way off the pace. About 2 seconds off the next car on the track. A little bit surprising, and doesn't improve on it.
Yeah, and you can see Eric Lucas yet to turn the lap in his number 709 car. So we've had 18 drivers turn the lap, 19 drivers in the session. And a lot of these lap times right now are a little bit off the pace. And some drivers, like Byron Daly, they're heading into the pits. Well, they all might want to get back out on course, get a fresh set of tyres for the final stint here, because the clock is ticking. We don't have that much time left in this qualifying session. Oh, there we go.
Reed goes to the top. 39.518, fastest by 47 hundredths of a second. The gap now very tight at the top, but it is in favour of your championship leader. Paulo Munoz crosses the line and puts himself up 1 spot, goes to 4th, but he's about half a second away from the front row of the grid. Holland just got knocked out of the top 5, heads through Bogan. The very fast 260-kilometre corner before you rise up the hill. He needs to find a lot if he wants to get towards the front row. He needs to find a lot if he wants to claim a top 3 in the championship. But he's doing enough to solidify a top 5 on the points table right now as he crosses the stripe, and no improvement for him as a 41.4. About 1.3 seconds away from his ultimate quickest.
Good lap by Fredes, but doesn't gain him anything. He gains 0.4 of a second and he remains 7th on the board. As we see more drivers coming across the line, improving their times, not necessarily their positions. Boy, I almost wonder if these drivers were sandbagging in practice a little bit. The way we've seen 2 tenths shaved off of the fastest time in qualifying, these drivers are taking this seriously as they get prepared for the final race of the season. This isn't the easiest track to make a pass, so there definitely is something to be said for qualifying well. But of course, one thing you've always got to be aware of here at the Nürburgring, at this configuration, is turn 1, a very tight hairpin that's going to kick off this race. And you know what, if you start on pole, or at least on the front row, you have an advantage in that you won't be in all the carnage that we might get midfield.
Well, Simon, you can pass at turn 1. You can make a little look at Mercedes through the Mercedes arena. There's a chance to be made at Dunlop, Michelin Curve. I think there's a few passing opportunities on the shot. I'd label it as a a pretty decent track overtaking. Certainly, I think maybe a spot gets taken away with the fastest chicane though, because when you have to use a lot more of the brakes to get it stopped, it definitely opens up an overtaking zone under the brakes. That sort of goes away, but I still think you can definitely get some moves done around this place.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely not saying it's impossible, but I just think it's, tricky. You have to time the attack, whereas some tracks you can be a bit more you know, you don't necessarily have to set up the passes as much. But at the end of the day, we've got an hour race. There's going to be a pit stop during the middle of the race, so there'll be a bit of strategy involved. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of fun out there. And you know what? If we knew exactly what was going to happen, there'd be no point in running this since. Very much looking forward to the season finale and wrapping up a few stories and see who comes out with the checkered flag.
So 30 seconds left in qualifying. Michael Overbay looking for a late improvement. Looks like he's wound himself up for this lap, a cooldown lap, and then a fast lap, and he does find some time, but he doesn't find any track position in terms of the race start. Good position, I should say. Horatio Calquin's 9th, just inside the top 10. That's a mistake. That's going to cost him a bit of time there at the last corner. He's just going to cross the stripe to get one more lap in if he doesn't back out of it, which he does, so he won't improve. He didn't improve anyway. Hugo Galaz in 15th. Wonder if he made the stripe or not. I think he might have just got there. No, he didn't, says director Sean. David Holland then. We watch him again. I feel like every time we pick up Holland, it's through that corner, as he's in 6th at the moment. 0.2 of a second puts him onto row 2. Certainly using all of the racetrack through the last section of the circuit. Lines up the throttle out onto the main straight. What's the lap time look for Holland? 1:67, finds 0.03 of a second over his best, but no extra spots up the order. Ted Lowendijk still a way off the pace. Wonder if he's coming in with a bit of a shortage on practice, because he was a long way off in practice for the session as well.
More notably, Ryan, that's Cole Modoff behind him. That's our driver currently sitting in 2nd.
So across the line they both come. Lowendijk finds 0.3, and Modoff finds nothing. And that should be your field set for the final race of the season. Let's take a look then at how they line up for our finale at the Nürburgring. It's Rodrigo Meets that has got himself the pole, looking to win the championship in style. Carl Modoff will start from 2nd, Quero and Munoz 3rd and 4th. Christian Eisler splits up the championship top 5 by going 5th ahead of David Holland in 6th. And Ignacio Rodriguez Fredes is 7th with Michelle Ferraris alongside him. Horatio Calquin and Pablo Valenzuela Uribe here top 10.
Starting in 11th place will be Steve Gaiori. Michael Overbay will be starting from 12th ahead of Sean Romig and Rodrigo Munoz. Down in 15th place is Hugo Galaz, and Byron Daly will roll off from 16th. Our last 2 drivers who set times were Sesso Bagai and Ted Lowendijk. Eric Luke did not set a time in qualifying.
Shows you why the top 5 in the championship are where they are, as they qualify in the top 6 spots for this one. Christian Eyes are doing a good job to get amongst them. They are the fastest, pretty much, out on the racetrack week in and week out. And they've got the consistency to match it as well. But Meets has just been a step ahead of the rest for the majority of the season. And he's got to just close it out one last time. With the pit stops, as always, we expect it to come somewhere around halfway between the 40-minute to go mark and about 20 minutes to go. The pit stop window generally opens with drivers running as late as they can to allow the cars to be as light as possible and therefore as quick as possible, with cars set up for endurance racing and tyres that can go the distance. What's it looking like, though, in terms of track conditions for us, Sam?
You know, pull that up on the screen. Still a very cool track temperature, and not a lot of time for these drivers to warm their tyres up. The pace car is pretty much right in front of the final chicane there, so once all 19 cars are gridded, they will roll off, and within 30 seconds they will be racing. And again, the first turn here, as it is really at any road course, but especially here at the Nürburgring Grand Prix course, is a danger zone. It's a very tight right-hander. Some cars will run wide, some cars might bump a guy ahead of them. Hopefully they all keep it straight. We do indeed have a 19-car field. Even though Eric Luke didn't turn a time in qualifying, he has taken to the grid.
Turn 1's a hairpin, and it's downhill as well. It flattens out at the apex, and then it actually goes back uphill into Mercedes Arena. It's incredibly tough, and drivers are given an incentive to hold it around the outside because they're given the inside for the next 2 corners. So it is often a trouble spot. It is somewhere where you can make or break your race on lap 1. Despite the adage that you can't win it at turn 1, you can certainly do a lot to help your matters or hinder them. Here's that chicane. You can see the F1 layout that they use. The first tighter turn off, but opting for the 3rd, sometimes even 4th gear layout. As the iRacing.com Porsche pace car dives out of the road, and Rodrigo Meets will lead us to the field, lead the field to the green one last time as we go racing the PRL LMP2 series, and Modoff has gone right with him. Look at this, they're wheel to wheel down the main straight. Modoff going to be on that outside for turn 1 I spoke about. Can he hold it there? Or does he go for the crossover? Can the rest of the field get through turn 1 cleanly? Looks like they do.
Yeah, so far so good. The middle of the field was a bit more stretched out than I anticipated, because about 10th on back they really weren't right up tight with the leaders as they came to green, but as a result everyone's gotten through the first section of the track cleanly. Now the track starts to open up a little bit more, and we are coming to a couple of passing opportunities here. We'll see if any drivers up front try and make something happen. You see 2nd and 3rd on nose to tail.
Modoff stuck with Meets for a couple of corners, and then just lost the rear end coming out of the Mercedes arena, and that allowed Mauricio Cuero right up to his rear wing. Down at Dunlop. One of those green and black machines running a little bit wide, looking up a brake, but just gets away with it through the very fast Schumacher S's. It's been a relatively stable opening lap for these cars, as another one just runs a little bit wide. Oh, hang on, at the front. That was a mistake from Mauricio Cuero, and it almost caught Devin Holland up. He had to take some avoiding action, and he might lose out. In fact, he's just going to stave off Paul Munoz.
Yes, the 3rd, 4th and 5th all accordioned a little bit there, but got away with it cleanly. And here we come across the start-finish line. Ignore the lap count at the top there. This is a 1-hour race, and right now it's the Mees leading the field.
37 laps would have been a bit longer than 60 minutes, I suspect.
Oh, we've had a collision out of a final turn. Sean Romig has had a spin. He's got going again. I don't see a lot of damage to his car, and I think we got more trouble.
Yeah, turn 1. Fredes and Calquin, the teammates collide. Overbay as well was facing the wrong way. Let's take a look and see what happened. They were 3 wide down the main straight, and slow moving was Fredes, and oh no, he's been hit by Gaori coming into the corner, and it's pinballed the rest of them.
I think this started a lot earlier than that. I think the reason they were 3 wide was because of a spin in the final turn, and that's kind of what it led to them getting all side by side there. But then we just saw, I think, Fredes pull off by the time they got to turn 3, and now he's in the pits. Yep, that's Ignacio Fredes sitting in the pits, so he's the main casualty out of all of that carnage at the completion of lap number 1.
Up front, almost a second in hand for Rodrigo Meets over Carl Modoff, who sits 2nd behind him. Mauricio Cuero is just about 2 seconds away. Then comes Holland and Munoz, your top 5. Christian Eisler behind them. Ferraris, Calquin. Michael Overbay's up into 9th still, and Romig. In fact, yeah, no, Calquin, Overbay, Calquin, and Romig have gone right down to the back of the field, haven't they?
Yeah, that was Holland, who was going very slow on the front straight there. He pretty much came to a stop. If he had to serve a slowdown, that was a massive slowdown, whatever it was. He doesn't jump a chicane. I almost wonder if he had some kind of software issue he had to take care of.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue outside of the sim, you would suspect. So he falls to 8th, unfortunately.
Yeah, so Kalkin, as you mentioned, had just dropped back through the order. He's came into the pits. Fredes and Kalkin are not having a fun start to the race. Neither, of course, is Holland now, much further back than he would like to be running. So a bit of a chaotic start here at Nürburgring, but things looking fine and dandy for Mies up the front, holding a 1 second lead over Murdoch.
Let's take a look at Rodrigo Munoz and Hugo Galaz, the two teammates running 11th and 12th at the moment for Backfire Motorsports. Both of them have come up the order 3 spots, so both capitalizing on the mistakes that we've seen from others in the opening 5 minutes, and right now separated by just under 0.4 of a second, and that'll shrink through this flat-out section of the racetrack and up towards the last couple of corners. Is it close enough for Galaz to have a look? Certainly is. Up the inside, he gets the move done, mainly because Rodrigo Munoz backs well out of it to allow it to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to guess there were team orders at play there, but it wasn't the best execution, I would say. I think they would have lost less time had they got it done further up the straight, but there we go. It's done and dusted, and a bit of a battle going on in front of him there between, that would be Daly and Luke. Daly's off to a nice start here, 16th to 9th.
Yeah, he's up 7. Not quite the biggest mover, because behind him, Eric Luke's been +9. You mentioned Luke. In practice, he was 10th, actually, and didn't set a time in qualifying. Now he's running 10th in the race. He's moved up the order pretty much in tandem, it looks like, with Daly. He was a little bit quicker than Daly on the previous lap, so looking to put a bit of pressure on him and elevate himself another spot. Could be the beginnings of a very good drive for Luke, considering we are just 7 minutes out of 60 into this season finale.
Yeah, about the top 6 cars, the top 7 cars started up towards the front. Obviously, we saw a little bit of carnage in the middle of the field in the early laps. The first driver to really capitalise off of that is Steve Gayori. He started 11th and is up into 8th place right now. And then, of course, everyone else behind him has also been involved in the wars. Other losers from all that are Michael Overbay and Sean Romig. They started towards the middle of the field, but of course running at the back with a little bit of damage, but hopefully they can try and get a bit of that repaired during their pit stop, coming up in about 10 to 20 minutes from now.
Rodrigo Meets is putting the power down out front, a couple of purple laps in a row. His margin extending out to 2 seconds right now over Carl Modolf, and behind Modolf is Quero. We are on board with. Remember, your live timing can be found over at GSRC.tv. Quero, 2 tenths quicker than Modolf on the previous lap. See if he can crush that gap down just a little bit further in the laps to come. Certainly a chance for him to get up onto the second step of the podium.
See as we ride on board here just how much elevation change and banking there is at these corners. Definitely a variety. You know, it's a shame that this circuit kind of sits next to the Nordschleife, kind of gets you know, overshadowed by that track, because this is a nice little racing circuit on its own. And you know, often we forget that, but sometimes we get good little races, good little battles here like this that remind us of what this racetrack can produce for us. Right now, no battle, but definitely a lot of pressure being applied from the 3rd place car, Quero, onto the 2nd place car of Modolf as they come around to complete their 5th lap, and about 10 minutes into this event.
There are a lot of major events that run here. Of course, Formula One have had an illustrious history here. The World Endurance Championship, do they come here or to Nordschleife or combined?
Yeah,
there's a lot of times we see the Nürburgring get combined with the Nordschleife for many events.
Yeah, no, they do the Grand Prix course, so I think those cars are a little bit too fast for the Nordschleife.
We've seen some of the prototypes that get tested around there have certainly got some speed. It's been 3 seconds, 3 seconds. 7 tenths covering Modolf, who responded, but not quite by enough to Quero's advances. Daly and Luke are still really close together. And Hugo Laz has drafted up to the back of them. Remember, he got by his teammate Munoz a couple of laps ago. Now he's right up to Eric Luke and looking to get by him. That's music to the rearview mirror of Byron Daly.
Yeah, we've got lots of good little two-car scraps going on outside of the top 10. Like you mentioned, this is the most intriguing one now, especially as they come out of this long right-hander curve and up through the Schumacher rest. There are a couple of passing opportunities that do present themselves. So Eric Luke has got to make sure he hits his marks here and doesn't present any opportunities to Galaz. And that's a bit of a mistake by the 500 there. I think he went into the left-hander too deep.
You can also save a little bit of fuel right now if you're Luke or Galaz. We know that can net you a lot in pit lane. Even just saving a couple of tenths translates to a lot of time, as that was a mistake. And into pit road comes Galaz, as Daly was very slow through the chicane. Luke pulled alongside him but couldn't make the move into the final corner. And now back and forth across the main straight. Daly trying to shake the draft he's giving off to Luke right now, and he's far enough ahead that he's not under pressure once we get back to turn 1. But he had a pretty poor exit, and he almost opened up the inside for Luke there before switching back to hit the apex. Now, Galaz pitted. It looked like a relatively late move, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, but
should just be able to make it home.
I've got to imagine so. I don't know, why he would have pitted this early if he hadn't calculated they could make it. It doesn't...
No, he's got an issue. He's been stationary for a long time.
I was going to say, it doesn't surprise me if we see a lot of cars towards the tail end of the field make early stops here, because we had so much contact in the opening few laps. Some drivers may want to opt to get that repaired, but I just feel that the pit window isn't open this early. We have a nice little scrap on track, by the way, for 12th position between Bagay and Uribe. That might be worth a watch as they work their way up the back section of the circuit.
Yeah, a tale of two races here. Uribe is trying to claw back ground lost, while the guy is trying to hang on to ground gained so far in this one, 12 minutes into the event. The guy started 17th, Uribe started 10th. So you can see how their two races have panned out based off where they're running at the moment. Might get close enough for a lunge. That's similar to where Galaz was, but he had a compliant teammate in front of him. Uribe does not. Into Coca-Cola curve. There we go. On to the inside curbing. Almost ended up driving into the pit entry tyre bundle sort of looking thing. And his exit was pretty poor as a result. Being on that outside allowed the guy to get the power down much earlier. But he's not defending. He's willing to let Uribe have that inside, and he uses it to his advantage. Takes away the spot at the first corner, puts himself up into 12th in this one.
Yeah, I didn't think very highly of Uribe's move into the final turn there. Would have been much better to have tried to have set Bagay up for the pass down the front straight, but he made it work. I think he was able to tell that he, as you mentioned, he out-qualified Bagay by 7 positions on the grid, so he knows he probably has the pace advantage, and I guess he wasn't too bothered about making a perfect move. He just knew he needed to get it done, and he's got it done. And now let's see if Uribe can run down Munoz, who's about 6 seconds up the ridge.
Going to be a little while until that happens, but there is enough time for it to transpire. We'll keep an eye on that as we move forward in this one. I'm still looking at Daly and Luke because they're still separated by only about a car length or two. Just heading towards Spogan right now. And climbing the hill once again. A deceiving amount of elevation change at this track. Doesn't look quite as hilly as it actually is, and you don't feel it as much as you're driving, but trackside, the photos certainly tell the tale of the racetrack. And just in front of them is this P6 battle between Ferraris and David Holland. Remember Holland's mistake or issue that he had about 5 or so minutes ago. Doesn't seem to be long lasting. He's back up to speed and he's looking for a route by Ferraris.
So these two tight on track. We also, of course, have that daily Luke battle still going on. And Holland, about 13 seconds away from race leader Mies. Considering he came to a dead stop early in the race, it's not too shabby actually, but obviously he's going to lose more and more time while he's sitting behind the 36 car here. So I'm sure he'll want to make quick work of him. Turn 1 is the best passing opportunity, but as we've already pointed out a couple of times, not the only passing opportunity. It'll be interesting seeing how patient the driver of that number 25 car is. Opportunity
for Quero to leapfrog Munoz in the championship if they stay at 3rd and 4th as they run right now. And the 2 points separating them could be decided by if one of them gets fastest lap or finishes with 3 incidents or less as well. That's all going to be really critical for those drivers. Might see them taking a little bit less on the exits and the entries, trying to save those incident points if they are thinking that they're going to need them to record 2nd in the championship. As here comes Holland, he's got the run. He'll pull out from the slipstream as they hit the braking zone and nice and smooth on the brakes, gets it turned in and meets the apex, and that's a pretty textbook move from Holland there. Just needs to make sure he gets it turned, rotated and pointed out of this little arena section, which is what he does, and Ferraris isn't going to be able to come back at this point.
Yeah, my first thought when I started racing on the arena section back on older video games in the earlier 2000s was, boy, I hate it. It kind of ruined the flow of this racetrack, in my opinion, but it has produced some brilliant battles for us over time. Hopefully we'll get to see a couple there later on today. But yeah, nicely done by Holland here. He's obviously lost a bit of time to the leaders while he was making that move, but now he's got some clean track and he'll have his eyes set on Isla. I couldn't help but notice when the cars were gridding up, we had about 4 different pairs of teammates throughout the field that were gridded up together. I wonder if we will see team games starting to be played later on in this race if certain drivers or teams realize, hey, I could use a position, or hey, I could give up a position and help out my team guys so that, you know, it helps him or it helps us. We'll be interested in seeing if we see any games later on in this event. But right now, things are a little bit spread out, so it's just something to bear in mind in the closing stages.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the team's points, there's not much in it.
Oh, big mistake from Luke. A big mistake by Eric. Luke in the final corner, he really overshot that, and now Rodrigo Munoz is going to get quite close to him. So Eric Luke is trying to apply the pressure on Byron Daly, and you'll see the replay in the final corner here. He just goes in way too deep, and that kind of backs him up. What gear are they taking this in now? 4th gear, so yeah, a lot of speed, but just a little bit too much speed right here.
He'd actually lost a bit of ground by that point, hadn't he? Noticed it through Dunlop, Bogan, that he'd fallen a little ways off. He's recovered that now. But yeah, speaking of the teams, remember last round, Punto lost a lot of ground to Delta Sport. It brings the gap back to 41 points between them. It does seem that 41 points is on the larger side of things. It's mathematically possible, but I think Punto CL are running reasonably well enough at the moment to not implode to the point of last week and cost themselves that 41-point gap. Modoff running 2nd for Delta Sport and Holland running 6th. Isla running 5th for Punto. Where's the other Punto CR Racing race driver?
I'll let you take a look at them. Keeping an eye on the battles out here on the circuit, including the battle for 2nd and 3rd between Modoff and Quero. Yeah, we're going to pick them back up on camera here. You see there's still about a second between them. but we saw how easy it was to make a mistake around here with Eric Luke just a couple of moments ago. If Modov makes a similar mistake in the final turn as what we saw out of Luke, I think that would open the door right up for Quero.
Yeah, Meats and Quero, sorry. Went to CR Racing Red. Yeah, there's not much chance of that changing, I don't think, in this one. Sandwiching the MotorSports driver at the moment. 3.9 seconds ahead for Modov to Meats, but only 6 or 7 tenths behind to Quero. Lap times are relatively close, they've not been too far apart, yeah.
Yeah, Pablo Uribe locked his rear tyres into the first turn, came to a dead stop after a skid, got going again without losing the position, but sponged everything from 12th line back up. But I think we should keep the cameras up front here because they're coming to the front straight and see if Quero can make an opportunity, although he gets a couple of wheels in the gravel there. That'll cost him a bit of time.
Yeah, if you look at the comparison between Quero and Modov, Modov's fastest lap is a 40.998, Quero's is a 40.876. Quero's came just 2 laps ago. Modov's was a few laps before that. But lap on lap, there's not much to choose between them. They're pretty much lapping identically. Give or take a half a tenth or a tenth every now and then. There's not much to split them. Going to be tough for Quero as a result to actually make a move.
Yeah, so 3 battles of interest on the track right now. The one for second, but the one for ninth is actually hot and heavy right now. Eric Luke has caught Byron Daly and is looking down the inside of him into the first corner. Byron Daly gives him room, but now Luke is on the outside. And he might have to attempt some kind of crossover to really get in position to pass Daly, and he's not going to be able to pull that off, or is he? No.
That was a bit of a block from Daly there. Very late on after Luke shaped for that late lunge into the inside I touched on was a possibility before the race. Daly moved his car across, just entering the braking zone. Fends off the challenge for now. Munoz watching it. Catching them as Luke slides, coming out of the corner, getting a bit of the what is it? Curb. Coming out of the corner, getting a bit of the curb there. And so, I mean, it's pretty obvious here that Luke's got the pace, but he can't get by. That's the issue. Every moment he waits, Rodrigo Munoz gets closer. And once he gets close enough, there comes a point where Luke can't just absent-mindedly throw it up the inside, around the outside, because if he does and he loses enough momentum, Munoz will get by him.
Yeah, I don't think Daly has done anything uncalled for. You know, I don't think he's done any excessive blocking yet. But that being said, Luke is just going to be getting more and more impatient each lap that goes by, and eventually, even, you know, if Daly makes a legitimate defensive move, Luke might say something along the lines of, I'm tired of that, I'm going through. Let's see if it happens this time around.
Might be a couple car lengths too far back at turn 1. Certainly brave on the brakes. He filled the mirrors, but all he does is hurt his own corner. Natural pace allows him to maintain the gap, though. Won't be any looks happening this time through a Mercedes arena. The issue in these battles is you can't keep trying the same thing. Well, I mean, you can. But oftentimes you begin to get frustrated if you're the car behind trying the same thing over and over again. And you could end up cracking before that guy in front. It's the guy in front that's more likely to crack the pressure. So does Luke keep applying the heat? Or does he search for the move somewhere else and get it done as soon as he can? Or does he wait for the pressure to boil?
Funnily enough, I've been playing this track a few times on iRacing recently in AI racing, and the best place I've found to pass computer cars is right here. This left-hander after Schumacher. If you're racing a robot, that's the place to make your move. But if you're racing a real person, as these people are,
yeah,
I think down in turn 1 is your better opportunity.
The thing about humans, Samuel, is they're not robots. So, as soon as Yeah. I can definitely see it as an overtaking spot. That's not one. But if you get a good enough run through the Schumacher rest, or that car in front makes a mistake, definitely. But it's also incredibly easy to cover off.
Yeah, I wonder if he's to hold position. I would love to get a replay of the onboard of Eric Luke, but they might not hold position. Or maybe they will. But Eric Luke, through that chicane at the end of a lap, he was so much faster than Daly. You could visually watch him like close up about 5 car lengths in one turn. Yeah, let's ride on board Luke here. Just watch how close we get to Daly, rather.
That's it. Yeah. Daly, I think, missed his turning point there. Looked like he really drove it around the first part, as opposed to driving through it like Luke did. I think there was a slight error, but certainly a lot more pace from Luke. Was a big factor in that. With 34 minutes remaining, we're getting close to halfway. Galaz, by the way, remember he made that very early pit stop. It ended up being about 28-30 seconds or so. So it remains to be seen whether that's in or out of the fuel window in terms of what we should expect from our pit stops today.
Yeah, well, like you say, the problem there for Galaz is he's gone a lap down. So even if he still has the pace of leaders, he may get a few blue flags where he's forced to let some of the leaders by, and that's just going to keep killing his lap time. And unfortunately, I think his race is going to unfold. Once again, Luke catches up with Daly, and into the pits comes Munoz. Rodrigo Munoz, he has had enough of following these guys. Not Paulo Munoz. I should read first names next time there. Here we go.
I was looking at Rodrigo Munoz's laps, comparing them to Galaz. Galaz is about a second off him, so there'll be no pressure here from Rodrigo that he could potentially lose out on the spot. Or, I mean, of course, Rodrigo had been passed by Galaz, and then Galaz pitted, but there's no pressure of Munoz not getting this spot or holding it in the pit stops here, unless he has a mistake or takes too much fuel as we pick up through the Schumacher S's. Yeah, here we are. Yeah, Munoz coming out 21 seconds, so even a pit stop time was much quicker.
Yeah, he rolls again. I have got to wonder, maybe this isn't the case for Rodrigo, but I have got to wonder if we'll see a couple of drivers have lengthy stops because they're forced to take some kind of repairs when they come into the pits. That'll happen sometimes on iRacing. You won't get a meatball flag, you won't get a black flag telling you that you have to pit, but when you come into the pit, they will make you stop for a certain amount of time to take required repairs into the car.
Not unless you've got significant damage. You've actually had a crash. Just bumping and grinding, hitting the curbs, stuff like that. You're not going to have any of that required stuff. But yeah, I do know what you mean. Don't think it will be an issue for any of the drivers out there today at this stage. Still watching the P13 scrap between Begay and Romig. It's been brewing for a few laps. Romig's trying to find a way through, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be any teammate favours here. Similar to what we saw with Munoz and Galaz towards the start of the race. Lowendijk is actually 5 seconds behind these guys as well. Another teammate. 13th, 14th, and 15th they run.
I'm sure all three of these drivers hope that they work their way up through the field and they're not racing 13th, 14th, and 15th like this at the end of a race. But if they are, I hope they do some kind of photo finish to wrap off the season. By the way, Luke is right up on Daly's gearbox once again. And for the third lap in a row, he's been so much quicker through that final chicane. I've got to wonder that Luke is thinking about trying to make a move into that final turn sometime soon.
All depends. That's an interesting one, isn't it? Because the move at the final corner all depends on your exit from not this one, but this corner up here. Because this is what slingshots you out onto the back straight and up the hill.
I believe that turn is called Warsteiner.
Yeah, Warsteiner.
Here we go.
slingshots you up the hill towards here. You wash off a bit of speed, but you can still gain a lot based off the momentum coming down. Certainly gained. Looks, but not close enough.
Yeah, he was too far back. Luke needs to be right on the back of Daly exiting Warstein. If he does that, he can make a legitimate attempt into the final corner, I believe. I hope that if Daly decides to pit, he needs to get on the mic and let... Oh, here we go. Luke going to try something into turn one.
No.
Yeah,
if he's right at the back of them exiting Warstein, he's going to pass him before they get to the last corner. I just want to point that out. It'll happen before they get to the chicane. It's a long enough straight to make a move before you get there. 20 seconds off halfway. These guys are battling away. 38 seconds off the race lead. Meets Harold's a 4-second advantage over Karl Modolf right now, who's relieved himself of the pressure from Mauricio Cuero. Cuero is now about 1.5 seconds off of Modolf. You got to go 13 seconds back then to find Paulo Munoz. Christian Iser a second or so away from him. Holland, similar gap for Aris Gaiore. And then Daly and Luke rounding out your top 10 through Dunlop Curve. Let's check in on the guy in roaming again.
Yeah, we'll check in on them, but I want to make a note that we should keep an eye on Holland, because remember, he was several seconds back of Iceland not too long ago. New fastest lap by Karl Modolf in second place, so maybe we should keep an eye on him too.
You mentioned Iser and Holland. Well, here it is. The gap has been cut to 0.5 of a second, and Holland on the previous lap, well, he wasn't actually any quicker. So the gap has been like this for at least a lap or so. They have got Hugo Galaz just up the road. He's just gone a lap down to the top 4. He could potentially hold up Iser, not intentionally, but sometimes you do catch lapped cars in awkward spots. That could allow Holland an opportunity. To the contrary, it could swing in favour of Isler here. Or they get through with neither of them being held up, which is ideally what we want to happen.
The problem is they may catch Galaz going up through the Schumacher S, and there's no good way for Galaz to get out of the way there, but actually they're still a little bit far back. Hopefully they'll catch him on the back straight or on the front straight, and Galaz will be able to neatly pull out of the way. But here we go then, 5th and 6th, less than a second between them. Yeah, I think both of these battles are going to come to a point, the two battles that we've been watching, 9th and 10th nose to tail, 5th and 6th. Likewise, the Iceland-Holland battle, very close. And in fact, I think we might need to go to the 5th and 6th battle, because they're coming out onto the front straight, and Holland is right on the gearbox of Iceland.
Indeed he is. How's it pan out? Down the main straight, to the inside for David Holland. Isler on the outside, cannot defend it, and Holland puts himself back where he started in P5.
Now maybe time to check in on that battle for 9th again, because Luke is... I want to say Luke is close to Daly, but he's not any closer than what he's been previously. I mean, he's tried this before. It's the same story. Once again, he looks like he's close enough to make a move, but Daly's covering him off.
Of Luke at pitting. Just get yourself clean air for a lap, and probably find that you leapfrog Bar and Daly there without, even though there's no tyres being taken, you're still going to find the benefit of having no one in front of him holding him up. You can see he got held up there. He's not pushing it into the braking zones as much as he probably could. Doesn't want to rear end Daly in front of him. It's certainly losing time. No reason for him not to pit, especially given they're pretty close to the end of the window regardless. I think everyone will be in within the next 6 minutes.
Yeah, one risk you always have, of course, when you make a pit stop is you run the risk of coming out into worse traffic than you're in to begin with. But I don't think that's a possibility for Luke. You know, it's not like he's going to lose well, mind you, he was in that battle with Rodrigo Munoz earlier, wasn't he? So maybe he's worried about losing out to him. Obviously, during practice on iRacing, just like in real life, you can time out your pit delta.
If he's worried about losing out to Rodrigo Munoz, it's more likely to happen if he doesn't pit. So by pitting, he's helping himself out there as well. He goes for another lap. Because Munoz right now has got himself clean air. He's doing a 42.7 on the last lap. Luke did a 42.2. So at least he's got the outright pace behind Daly. How he got in that regard?
Yeah, it's a little
Munoz just
surprising.
struggling by himself.
Rodrigo Munoz, yeah. It's a little bit surprising he is. I mean, he is carrying a full tank of fuel, obviously, whereas these drivers are probably on light fuel. That's probably helping them out a bit.
When do our race leaders make the trip to the pitch, though? We generally see the majority come in over the course of 2 laps, in and around this time. 24 minutes to go. Neats goes past pit entry, so he's got another lap up his sleeve. So does Modov. So does Quero. Pit Windham up is slightly longer here than we've seen at some of the other places this season. There was one track where it was right on halfway, and that was incredibly close. It's not always the same.
Rodrigo Munoz did click off a 1:42.3 last time by, which was a little bit more competitive, but still it's not like he's eaten out chunks of time from the daily Luke battle, which is one of our main battles of interest at the moment. Obviously, we're also seeing how David Holland does coming through the field. He's 3.5 seconds back of Pablo Munoz right now. Paulo Munoz, rather. But, you know, he might catch him in the closing laps of a race.
The guy in Romig. Romig has come to pit lane, so he's trying to leapfrog his teammate there. He gets it slowed down nicely and begins the slow crawl down what's actually a pretty lengthy pit complex at the Nürburgring. I imagine we'll see Big Guy respond on the next lap. Let's check the pit stop time for Romig here. Should be about 21 seconds, if all goes well. Wow, 17 seconds, so there you go.
This could be a concern. He might be exiting the pits in front of our race leaders here. Oh, he's far enough up. But the reason I want to point that out, we haven't really talked about it yet, but this isn't the friendliest pit exit in the motor racing world. Very fast lap.
No, it's not. It feeds you right back out onto the apex of turn 1. Luckily, there's a big period where the cars coming by can see who's exiting pit lane and they can generally sidestep, but it normally holds up the cars on the racetrack and the ones exiting pit lane. Neats' gap has been cut back to 3.5 seconds, so Modov is slowly shrinking the advantage, but as Neats cuts through traffic, Modov has to do the same behind. So just ebbing and flowing just a little bit.
Luke is finally coming into the pits. As is Goyori, but finally, what we've been wanting to see happen for a little while has happened. Derek Luke's come in, and now, of course, the big question here is how will we get out in comparison to Rodrigo Munoz? Now, I think he should be ahead, and the reason I believe that is because I can only imagine Luke's been saving a little bit of fuel while he's been running out there behind Dane, and he shouldn't have to pit as long.
And he was lapping quicker than Munoz consistently, and Munoz had a slow stop. So this should be relatively quick for Romig. 17 seconds in the lane for Romig, looking at his comparison to Bagai as well, by the way. Bagai responded as we expected. His was also 17 seconds stationary, gains half a second. And the pit exits can be really tight between the two Victor teammates. Romig trying to leapfrog Bagai, doesn't happen, but watch this at turn 1 on the exit. The guy's going to wash out wide, and Romig drives around him and takes the spot.
Mies and Quero come in, so Modov will temporarily inherit the race lead. Pit lane getting very busy now. These are, as you mentioned, we see most of the stops historically take place within a 2-lap window. Well, I think we've hit that 2-lap window.
Bailey's just responded in pits now, so we'll check out his pit compared to Luke in a minute as Meeks gets off the lane. About a second slower than the best we've seen today. Wouldn't have hurt him just to take an extra gallon or two to be safe. Modov, by the way, the race leader, should be seeing him in once he gets back to the pit straight. I want to look at Luke and Daly though.
Yeah, well, watch them, but Holland has leapfrogged Eisel in the pits. A very short stop by Holland. They'll be taking enough fuel.
Yeah, so forget about Modov right now. He's just circulating behind some lap traffic. He's going to get potentially held up, but he's not really in a fight, actually. He's looking by himself. A couple of seconds behind Quero. Luke is thundering down the main straight. And Daly is coming out of pit lane, so Luke is still behind Daly. And in fact, Daly's pit stop was much better. We didn't get to see a comparison between their pit stop times, unfortunately.
Yeah, we might get that pulled up, but Modov is into the pit. So I think, I want to argue with you here a little bit, Ryan. I think Modov and Quero could be close on pit exit. They weren't too far apart, so it'll be interesting seeing how the battle for second pans out.
No, we're going to find out in a minute, aren't we? Modov's in the lane. Quero's heading through to the last couple of corners now up the hill, using all of the road. Actually grabbed a little bit of the grass as he tipped it in. And out of Coca-Cola curve. Quero had the advantage. Modov had the advantage. Quero was about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds behind him, and that's how it's going to remain.
Yeah, his tyres are going to be a little bit warmer though, because Modov has been sitting still for 20 seconds, so we'll see if he can eat a little bit of that gap.
Yeah, it won't be too substantial unless there's a mistake. The person that did lose out though was Meats. His gap has been cut down pretty big. It was 3.5 after being 4 seconds. It's now looking like maybe 2 seconds. I do remember saying that Meats' stop was about 1 second slower than the best we've seen today. That might have been part of the equation for that gap coming down by a bit. 18 minutes left to go.
So after all our pit stops have cycled through, David Holland is back up into 5th position, and he has quite a significant gap in front of him, 18
Holland.
seconds. Yeah, but remember, he had that stop earlier in the race on the racetrack. I'd say this is a
He'd already climbed his way back to 5th, though, hadn't he? He'd done that quite a few laps ago. Already climbed his way back to 5th and got past Eisler.
Yeah, him and Eisler were close in the pit, so yeah, you might be right. I may have got a bit confused there, that I thought he passed him twice. But still, this is a decent comeback for him, it looks like. Yep. He's a little ways off away of Quero. He'll have to hope that they didn't take any fuel up there, but I think it's the final race of the season. These drivers should have that figured out by now.
He'll solidify his place in 5th on the championship table, which would be a good result for him and that team. As Munoz pits as well, just coming out now, in fact. He's going to fly that guy out pretty much all by himself in 4th. Top 5 in the championship, top 5 on the road. So the top 3, as you mentioned, it came down. Meats from Modov, from Quero. We just spoke about this, but here is the gap then. 1.4 from Meats to Modov, 1.7 from Modov to Quero. Certainly, between all 3 of them, it has come down a lot. It would be interesting to have a look at the comparison between Meats and Modov as well in terms of their pit stops, because there was definitely a game there.
Yeah, like you say, I wouldn't be surprised if Meat selected to stop a little bit longer than his competitors because he knew he had that 4-second cushion. But I don't think he counted on giving this much time up. You know, I'm sure he doesn't like the fact that he's only holding down about 1 second lead right now. By the way, my reaction a moment ago, Steve Gayori running on his own in 8th place had an off, but he recovered it. He's still in 8th.
You can see there Meats lost only 8 tenths in the lane, which is what came from his stop. Took 8 tenths of a second worth more fuel. So he's lost a little bit of ground somewhere on the in and the out lap as well. But right now the gap still coming down, 1.2. ButtKicker again on that lap. Is there a last tale to be told in this final race of the season? Meats trying to win the championship with a race victory. Kyle Modov trying to leapfrog himself from 4th to maybe 2nd. 2nd in the championship. Munoz runs 4th. 3rd runs 3rd. So there's a chance from the leapfrog.
Hey, guess what the best battle on track is? 9th place still. And, oh, it was, but then Luke actually put a couple wheels in the grass and Daly pulls away a tiny bit.
Luke caught him through the last chicane, as we've seen plenty of times already, but he caught him too much. And had to actually use the grass to avoid getting into the back of Daly. It was half a second quicker than him on the previous lap. Daly had actually extended the gap in the pit lane, even though Luke had pitted early, got himself clean air. Now we swam it back. And this is the battle that refuses to die. Roaming and Begay as well. Roaming has driven away from Begay, and he's under a lot of pressure now from Overbay instead.
I have a feeling with Luke being as fast as he is in that final chicane, if this battle goes down to the last lap, he'll use that front bumper.
I don't know. You don't really want to use that front bumper in these cars, do you? They're not the friendliest.
Yeah, it's more of a wedge than a bumper, yeah. It's like watching, be like watching a Battle Bots or Robot Wars episode. Watching a robot get underneath the other one, kind of flip it over. I'm talking about robots, not this race.
Yeah, so can we have a look at that? The guy in Overbay battle or not? Because Overbay, rather, has not had a great race himself. Now he's got a chance to cross one back from Cesar Begay, who was having a good run. He was holding off his teammate until the pit stops. Romig leapfrogged him at turn 1 and has driven away, and now the pressure is on. Overbay trying to set himself up, but missed the apex completely of those previous 2 corners and costs him at a really crucial time of the racetrack, because you need to get all of this right to be able to look at 1. Look at how he gains, though. That's almost the way Luke's skating on Daly, and that was a very optimistic look. He should be able to make this work down at turn 1, and he'll want to, because if he looks in his mirrors, you'll see Ted Lowendijk getting closer as well, and he's a teammate to the car in front of him. Here we go. Pulls out to the inside. Late on the brakes. Should get this one done pretty smoothly, and he does just that.
Yeah, well, let's not forget that Overbay was one of the drivers who lost out big in the early carnage in this race, where we had a couple of spins and incidents. He's trying to have a bit of a comeback race, but it's not going to plan, although obviously picking off that position helps him, but he's still only in 14th position with 12 minutes left to go.
Lowendijk could get by Begay here as well. Well off the pace in practice and qualifying. Could steal a few spots in the race. He's already stolen 2. Looking to take one away from his teammate. Down at Dunlop, is there a chance? Not quite. He ducked and dived through Mercedes Arena right when the guy was on the back foot, getting overtaken by Overbay. Suspect we might see a move in a similar place to what we saw from Overbay. Setting up through the last sector. Maybe a look at the final corner, but a decisive move at turn 1. Certainly meets the apex a bit better than Overbay, but still missed it by a little bit. It was closer, though.
Well, keep our eye on this battle, but some of our eagle-eye viewers may have noticed on the time and scoring column on the left-hand side of your screen, Eric Luke has dropped back a couple seconds for Byron Daly. The reason why, there was a little bit of contact between them last lap in the stadium section, and Luke had a bit of a slide, got going again, but lost a lot of time. All right, here we go. Teammates down the front straight, pass one, the best passing opportunity for drivers who aren't robots, and as a result, Lowendijk going to pick up.
Oh, there's Luke.
Oh, and Luke's had another spin.
I found him. He's at turn 1, and he's out of the race. He's retired. This is the second incident which has occurred down here at the first corner. Rear end over rotates, goes around. Romig did a good job to drive around him, but that's just an awkward spot, and he was unable to keep it going. He's out of this race, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, one or two things happened there. Is one, his car might have been damaged from the contact with Daly that he had last lap, or two, more likely, I think he was just trying to drive a little bit too hard to try and compensate for that. And, well, it's going to move everyone behind him up in position. Oh, what happened to Byron Daly? Because Rodrigo Munoz is now ahead of him, and that wasn't like that before, was it?
It was a lap ago. Probably lost out in the same incident with Luke. They both lost out to Uribe as well. Because they were running 9th and 10th. They're now running 11th and 12th.
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, I caught that Eric Luke had lost time to... Oh, there we go, another spin on track. Boy, lots of spins in the closing stages. But we catch back up with our leader, who hasn't had any spins this race, but is only leading by 1 second over Munoz. But yeah, so what I did there, Ryan, I went back to see what it cost Luke to 2 seconds to Byron Daly. Yeah, he had spun in the contact with Daly, but like you mentioned, Byron Daly had a spin as well as a result of that contact. So they both dropped down the order, and that's allowed Rodrigo Munoz to kind of propel himself back into the top 10. So good news for Rodrigo Munoz. What about the other Rodrigo? Is he going to have a happy end to his race? Because right now his lead stands at just 1.3 seconds with 8 minutes to go.
Yeah, remember how it had been shrinking after the pit stops? It's stopped shrinking, which is crucial for him. Modov 0.08 of a second quicker. It is time, but it's not enough time for him to be making significant inroads. There you go. Gained almost 0.3, and then started losing 100th, a 10th. It's gained, well, the same amount of time actually the last 2 laps in a row. Clawing up back. Certainly close enough to make Meeks sweat just a little bit.
How much of a fuel game is there being played here, Ryan? You've followed these drivers a bit closer than me. Nah, you don't think any of them will need to save?
Nope. You saw how long they ran. Over half the race.
No, that still doesn't mean they
no
might
way
not
they're... Yeah, no one's short fueled. If you're not going to short fuel the car unless you're if you're not comfortable with being able to say that everyone would have done the calculations and fueled up to the number they know they can hit to get home.
Well, Ted Lowendijk is into the pits for some reason.
There's no dramas in that regard.
Shame for him. So like far on making
progress.
I haven't seen him being given
probably
a
hit
penalty.
13.
Yeah.
He would have hit 13 incidents in the race.
Oh, going to come out in front of Quero here, is that?
Yeah, just gets out of the way. No issue there. That was Quero. Running third. Still running third. There were no dramas. Meeks responded to Modov's sudden uptick with a couple of gains over previous laps and goes a tenth and a half quicker than him last time by. 1.3. The 1.3 seconds the difference now. Make that 1.4. It opens up a little bit more on this lap. Been a fantastic season for this driver, though. Out front, Rodrigo Meets has been the class of the field. And he's showing it again in this final race.
Yeah, so we are getting word. We talked about how Michael Overbay was having a little bit of a comeback race from the contact earlier on. He is racing with his steering wheel at a bit of an angle, so that's obviously going to be affecting his times a little bit. He's back up to 13th after starting 12th. I'm sure it's not the race he was expecting, but good damage limitation and perseverance. Unfortunately, it's been relatively calm race throughout most of the field, so he's not going to be able to bring back a top 10. Now we're going to ride on board Modoff here in second position, less than 2 seconds behind our race leader, and see if he can hit his marks and try and trim that gap a little bit with about 3 or 4 laps left to go.
Well, he's been losing that, hasn't he? It was down to 1.2, it's now back out to 1.8. You can see the live gap at the bottom of the screen. How it ebbs and flows and comes down a little bit over the first sector. Now comes one of the more highest speed parts of the racetrack. Once they fire out of here, they head towards the far end where Dunlop Curve is. Acts as like a slingshot and fires you back up the hill. Really push the braking zone. There's a bit of camber on the corner which helps you get the car turned. Had a little bit of oversteer on the exit there. I had to just straighten up the steering angle. Doesn't cost him too much. At the moment, halfway through the lap, he's found a 10.5 over Meets. At the moment, this is good. Can he maintain it over the last half a lap? Now it's a high speed race. Back around to the final corner. Battle of wits into this chicane. How deep do you go before you lift off? And how much speed can you carry?
Yeah, catching is one thing, passing is another. If there's any good news for Carl Modoff, it's that they're crossing the line with 3 minutes 50 left on the clock. That means we have 3 laps left to go, so that buys them a bit more time.
Yeah, by the time they'd crossed the lap, it would have gone back out to about 1.7 seconds. So, Meets found a little bit in the last corner, which is a really good place to be strong because it means you're safe at turn 1 generally. The other bad news for Meets is I wouldn't want to catch on the final lap because the best overtaking spot has already passed if you passed the first corner. There are other spots, but we've seen today the majority of overtakes are happening at that first corner.
This
I
is
don't
really...
think yeah?
Yeah, this is really the best battle in a way. The only battle still left on the track. The rest of the field is trying to get it home. But the win's still undecided. I think Means has this in the bag as long as he doesn't make a mistake. But we've seen how easy it is to make a mistake from several drivers so far today.
2 minutes, 32 seconds on the clock. 1.65 the gap. Is there any lap traffic coming up for Meets? Just one car, and it's his other guy. He's by himself, so he shouldn't be an issue. But you never know. 2 laps to go at the Nürburgring. 2 laps to go in the season. It's coming down to the wire. At the line that time. Nothing to choose between them. The lap times split by just a couple of hundredths of a second. For the first time in a couple of laps, Meeks actually finds a 10th over Modoff through Mercedes Arena. That works out nicely for him. You can see Bagai getting closer as well in the foreground in that distinctive Vector livery.
Yeah, I mean, Bagai, he's not exactly in a battle here, so there's no reason for him to hold up the leaders. The problem is, you know, if they catch him at the wrong part of the track that they shouldn't, it looks like they'll catch him on the back straight, and then hopefully they'll pull away aside for both of them.
There's a minute on the clock. The gap is 1.4. That's the closest it's been for a few laps. He's finding little bits of time, but not chunks. And he needs big chunks right now if he wants to catch him. Still, the guy is in front of Meets.
Yeah, he'll let them by on the front straight here, but there's already been damage done to Mees here, just having run in his dirty air. And as they start the final lap, the gap is closer. The guy's not going to let them both by. He might filter into the gap in the middle here, but I'm sure Quero won't appreciate that too much. Modoff rather.
Will be relatively unhappy about that. The guy fighting for every last bit of time he can find in a battle he's not in. As now Modoff gets by, it is the final lap of the race. You can see the gap. And right now it is all in Meets' hands. He's got one hand on the trophy. Just needs to bring it home. This is for the win and for the championship. Even if he loses out on this win, he's got the championship in his grasp. Karl Modov looking to potentially finish third in the points. I don't think even that's going to happen. Munoz will probably lose out in second, and Quero will go to second. Munoz will end up third, and Modov will end up so close in fourth. Holland will be fifth. Up front, it'll be Rodrigo Meets. Started on the pole and has led pretty much every lap, hasn't he, in this race, except for the pit stop window. It is all smooth sailing back up the hill. One last time for Rodrigo Meets through the final section and into the final corner for the final race of the Precision Racing League LMP2 series at Nürburgring. It's a race win for Meets, but more crucially, Rodrigo Meets wins the Season 4 championship.
I always love it when you see a championship title taken with a well-earned win, a well-earned drive, and Demise definitely put on the championship caliber drive there today. Modov gave him a bit of pressure at the end, but I think Mies had it all under control.
Certainly did. Now let's go to a break here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Stay with us on the other side of this. Your full results and interviews from the Nürburgring and the PRL LMP2 series. Welcome back to the Nürburgring in Germany. Let's take a look at how it all panned out at the end of the day. It was a race win and a championship win for Rodrigo Meets in the end by 1.2 seconds from Karl Modov. Mauricio Cuero came home in third. Paulo Munoz, David Holland made up your top five and the top five from the championship. Christian Eisler sixth, ahead of Michel Ferrara, Steve Gaori, Uribe, and Rodrigo Munoz, your top 10.
And then on page number 2 here, sitting in 11th position at the end of the day was Byron Daly. Sean Romig comes home in 12th, and Michael Overbay in his beaten and battered number 68 car was the last car on the lead lap in 13th. Cesar Bagay comes home in 14th place ahead of Ted Lowendick and Hugo Galaz, who had that long stop early on in the race. The other drivers had to make lengthy stops for repairs: Ignacio Rodrigo Fredes and Horatio Calkin. Eric Luke was involved in the collision with Byron Daly mid-race and then spun around the lap afterwards and pulled out and rounds out your 19-car field.
Let's have a chat to our championship winner then, who gets it done exactly the way you want to get it done, with a race win. Rodrigo Meets, congratulations. That is a race and a championship win for you.
Yeah, hello guys. Very happy about the championship, and I had the best way to end the championship with a win. Yeah, very happy. It was a very tough race. The track was a little bit bumpy for the car, so it was very hard to drive with a lot of oversteer on the exit of the corner. But yeah, we managed to keep the first place until the end. Car was very, very close. He had a very nice pace. I think he had a better pace than me. So yeah, it was very tough. But yeah, really happy.
In terms of the championship, how hard was it keeping the consistency and the pace across all 10 weeks of this season? And how does it feel to finally be able to be the champion?
Yeah, I think consistency is the key for the championship. I had only one drop week. I had some good performance and some bad performance, but at the end I was the more consistent on the places of the end of the race. So yeah, that gave me the championship. It was a shame because Karl Modov was also in the battle and he missed one race. I was sure if he raced that round, maybe the story will be different. So it's a shame, but yeah, it's racing. It happens. As well, it happens to him. Sometimes it happens to me. So yeah, very happy about it.
Well, congratulations, Rodrigo. Who do you want to thank for helping you get this season done?
Yeah, I want to say thanks to you guys for broadcasting the series. Very good job on that. I want to say thanks to my team, to .cl. El campeonato va para ellos, dedicado a ellos. I want to say thanks to my family, to my mom, my dad, my brothers that were watching. And yeah, that's all, guys.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo. Congratulations once again.
Thank you, guys.
Next up, we're going to have a chat to Karl Modov with Samuel Raman.
Yeah, Carl, congrats on your second place finish. Just a second back of Rodrigo Mies. Was there anything else you could have done?
Qualified better? No, that's tough. I mean, I had a great qualifying spot, but I knew this was going to be a really hard track to pass on coming in. It's just, there's nowhere really to pass. Turn one is kind of the only braking zone, but you carry so much speed through there, it's hard to get around anybody. So yeah, he drove great, didn't make any mistake. At the end, I really found some pace that I thought I was going to be able to at least get close to him, but we had pretty much the same speed. So I was able to get kind of close to him, but I could never really threaten him, and he didn't make any mistakes. So congrats to him on the win in the championship, and to Mauricio as well. Those guys drove great all season, so congrats to them.
How difficult was the track today? Because we saw that the track temperature was quite cool, and obviously you don't really get much of a pace lap here. You kind of dropped right at the start-finish line.
Yeah, it's tough even when the colder weather throughout the week. You know, the stadium section is so slow. You don't really make any downforce, and these cars don't have very good grip. They're just so stiff for all the aero. So when you're driving slow, they're not really that good. Like a GT car is much better to drive to the stadium section. So it's really tricky, and especially on cold tires, first few laps, you're just really trying not to loop it or lock up anywhere to get in some heat in the tires. And very tricky. As the tires warm up, you kind of get into it and you really get into a groove, but it's still you're always kind of really trying to be careful because the grip limit is not what we see at some other tracks.
Well, Carl, you weren't able to bring home the gold in today's race or in the season as a whole, but you still put on a solid performance all season. How would you rate the season as a whole? What were some of your best memories or takeaways from the last from this season?
Yeah, I'm super happy with my season. I think not DNSing 2 events killed me, unfortunately, but that's the way it goes. But all the races that I did participate, I think 5th was my worst result all season. So I was just really satisfied overall with my performances. I think the highlights got to be Suzuka. The last lap battle with Mauricio is just really nice to be able to end a full long battle like that. But last week having it all kind of come to me through the pits was cool too. I was kind of hoping something like that would happen tonight, but Rodrigo's too good at nailing those pit stops, so didn't have a chance. But the whole season was great, and real happy about it.
All right. Well, congrats on a solid finish today, and we hope to see you back next season and some more great races up front. Anything else you'd like to say before we let you go?
Just thanks to all the announcers. Appreciate you guys' time. Thanks to all the organizers, and then Delta Sport, our sponsors, Move Up Lynchburg, Race Factory, Driven Texas, Unified for Kids, Get Stuck. Thanks everyone, friends and family who watch every week, and see you guys next season.
And that was Carl Modoff, your second place finisher. Ryan, you have caught up with the driver who got the third step on the podium.
Yeah, we got Mauricio Cuero here, Paulo Munoz translating for him. Congratulations on picking up that podium and also solidifying what should be third, maybe even second in the championship.
Well, felicitaciones, Mauricio, por el podio y por asegurar tercer lugar y quizás segundo en el campeonato.
Buenas noches a todos. Es chistoso porque ya estoy con la calculadora, viendo qué posición tengo. Lo más probable que la posición del campeonato se me haya ido de las manos por un punto que tuvo Paulo sin tener off tracks.
Well, good night, everyone. Mauricio says that as soon as the race finished, he was calculating what position he got and what position Carl and I got. And apparently, because I didn't get, I only got 2 off tracks this race, I got an extra point, and that's gonna give me second place and Mauricio third place.
Oh, well, that's certainly good news for you. How did the race pan out from your perspective then? Starting third, finishing third. Looked like there might have been a chance at advancing your spot at one point, but just didn't pan out.
Y que cómo estuvo la carrera desde tu perspectiva, partiendo tercero, terminando tercero, y que ahí en un momento tuviste la posibilidad de avanzar un lugar, pero no se dio.
Desde mi perspectiva fue netamente mantener la posición porque según mis cálculos con tercera posición y Paulo saliendo cuarto me bastaba. No quise ir sobre el nivel por lo mismo, intentar mantener la posición, asegurar el puesto, pero claramente salí hacia atrás.
His strategy from the start was to maintain the position because he had calculated that with him finishing third, that was enough for him to finish second in the championship. So he didn't want to risk it. And in the end, he says it didn't pan out because he didn't consider the bonus points the series offers.
Well, congratulations on securing that championship result and picking up a podium to close it out. Who do you want to thank for helping you get it done?
No, felicitaciones por el lugar que haya sacado Mauricio, y a quien quería agradecer, saludar.
A mi familia que me estaba viendo y por otra parte al equipo .cl que siempre anda apoyando en todo este tema del sim racing.
Well, he thanks his family and the Punto CL team, all the guys from Rodrigo, Horatio, Christian, and everyone.
Thank you very much. Congratulations once again. So that was Mauricio Cuero coming home in third, picking up second in the championship. And that does us for tonight and for the championship. Thank you as always to Simsa and ButtKicker for their continued support of the series and Precision Racing League for helping to bring it all together. Big thanks go to all of the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts, and Juliland as well, who provides all of our music. You can see the screen on how to get a hold of them. Big thanks to Sean and Samuel with me today up in the booth. You can find out more about GSRC, including our upcoming races over at Global SimRacing Channel on Facebook, GSR Channel on Twitter, or GSRC_Graham on Instagram. Don't forget to hit subscribe to us on YouTube as well so that you don't miss any of the action. Next up, it is Season 5 for this Tuesday night series. It is going to be a changed GTE and an LMP2 class as well, so it should be plenty of fun. That'll be December 22nd, kicking off for round 1. Other upcoming races are listed as well, so check them out and mark them down. But for tonight, from all of us here in the booth, thanks for joining us, and until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.